Welcome to a Starter and a Chaser podcast with your hosts, Joe Clarke and Jon Passow.
Friends are a lot like trees. They both fall down when you hit them multiple times with an axe. Okay. Oh, hi! Welcome to another episode of a Starter and a Chaser podcast. This is our special every other Monday episode. I am Professional Brewer Jon Passow.
I'm Whiskey Connoisseur Joe Clarke.
Now, this is the second part of our series of old versus new. And for this one, we have Ancient Age. For the starter, we have 1971 Ancient Age.
And the other starter, we have the now Ancient Age in a plastic bottle.
Actually, this is 77. So a cool thing that you can see for whiskey, if it doesn't have a tax stamp on there with the year, you can check the bottom of the bottle, and it usually has two numbers on there, and one of those is going to be the year, and this one has 77 imprinted on the bottle. So
originally you thought it was?
I thought it was a 71, so I misread. Right, cool. This is a 1977.
Cool. All right.
Nice. So tell us about Ancient Age.
Okay, Ancient Age. It is owned now by Sazerac Company, which also is the parent company to Buffalo Trace and 1792 whiskey. It's distilled in Frankfort, Kentucky. 1946, started by Shenley. Currently, it is a 3-year aged product, and this one, not so sure, John.
Yeah, who knows?
We really couldn't find anything on it. I believe it's supposed to be a 5 to 6 year on the earlier ones, but if you guys know, please comment down below. It is an 80 proof offering. Is that still an 80 proof offering?
I'm checking right now.
86 proof. So just like our last old versus new,
which was Canadian Club
versus 86, and Canadian Club was 80 versus 86.4. 86.8. Okay,
something
like that.
Something around there.
So it's a mix of the mash bill is corn, rye, barley. Okay,
so,
pretty simple.
Yep, simple. So let's we're going to do a side-by-side pouring of it. Joe's going to pour the new. I'm going to pour the old.
2020, baby.
All right, getting the old in here.
And this only comes in a fine plastic.
Supposedly, it also comes in the 750 ml glass bottles, but they don't make that here to our neck of the woods in Cleveland, Ohio anymore.
The ancient age ones do make it here in glass.
Oh, nice. So right off the bat, you can see kind of different style to the bottle, different label.
This one's kind of squishy.
This one's kind of solid. So we're gonna take a look at the color on these first. Oh, I did not expect that.
Yeah.
The old one is darker than the new one.
I kind of was hoping that would be the
with the Canadian Club,
it was
the older
opposite.
one, it was opposite.
Weird, yeah.
So what are the legs looking like on this one?
Well, I'm going to switch these around, My left hand doesn't switch as good as the new one. All right.
Oh, old one's thick.
Yeah, new one
got some legs.
They actually both have some legs, dude. They're pretty.
Now the reason why we're doing these old versus new is because the theory is the older stuff, and we're talking like 40, 50, 60 years, was produced to a higher quality standard than the newer stuff. And these are the major manufacturers, that were.
And our theory on that is based on demand. The bourbon boom has been alive and well. I'd say the real hard hit has been the last 7-8 years. Like that. Yeah.
And so mass manufacturing has taken a little bit of that personal touch out of the
Sure, you've seen things like our favorite bottled in bonds that have been cheap and so good disappear.
Early times.
Heaven Hill. What happened to my early times? Come on, guys, really? Another one that was dear to my heart before early times was the very old Barton bottled in bond, which is now still 100 proof. Instead of 6 years old, it's 3 years old, and it is called Very Old Barton Crafted, but it is still 100 proof.
Interesting. Yeah. So that's why we're doing this series.
So we're going to do a lot of. I think we should do a lot of series like that.
Yeah, and if you've got a bottle of old stuff that you'd like to donate, shoot us an email at whiskeyandbeer@starterandchaser.com. So what does the new Ancient Age taste like?
It's hot and caramely. So not a bad start. It is hot and caramely on the nose. It's like really hot, dude. For 80 proof, that is like it's almost like equivalent to, some of these 120, 130 proof is how hot it is on the nose. Kind of a light fruit smell to it, not a dark fruit, like a lighter fruits, tropical.
So this is also made by Buffalo Trace, which Joe always says Buffalo Trace has this fruity ester note to their whiskeys.
It has a little bit of that familiar note, of Buffalo Trace, but not as much so as any of their other offerings. Okay. This is a little different.
Okay, interesting.
Oh, all right, let's try the old. 1977. Let's see what we got. Oh, man.
So this was different than the "oh man" that he gave me with the Canadian Club. This seems like a more positive "oh man."
What? This is like, wow. This is what I pull like out of a new bottle of Blanton's.
Really?
Yeah. This is that caramel hit, nutmeg, like you pull out of a bottle. This has actually the familiar Buffalo Trace type nose to it, and I know it's by Shenley, but it's not Buffalo Trace, so that's kind of strange because this reminds me of more of their products than this one does. This has more of that fruity, caramely. Oh, that's really interesting.
So let's
start with new.
Prost.
Yeah, agree.
Did you just say agree when we cheers?
Agree.
Fair enough.
Good drink. Not complex. It's pretty
thinner.
Hot.
It
very
is.
Thin.
The heat builds for me. It's not like right up front.
It doesn't really coat much of anything. It's kind of thin. Let's go for another one.
I think you shortboard me, dude.
No.
Shame. No, fair enough. It's not a lot to it. It's not offensive. It's it's gonna correct the mistake here and give me a little bit more. Dankeschön. It's got some vanilla and oak notes that are on the back end.
Light fruit. It's a light fruit kind of thing.
Light fruit as well. Yeah.
Figure out the pear, maybe.
This isn't offensive. I
drink this. I've had it in the past.
$25 for a plastic liter. I mean, this is something for me that I would, before I got into cold beers and stuff like that, I used to pick out a lot of cheaper, price-wise whiskeys and throw it in a rocks glass, where a rocks glass is good use for me, and throw a bunch of ice in the summertime and be out in the sun and drink something, because you don't want to pour your $100 whiskey in a glass full of ice. I bet this would taste fantastic. Absolutely. Okay. So lighter fruit, caramel, light mouthfeel, a little bit of heat that builds. So let's dive into the 1977. So let's go into the 1977 age.
Look at the nice color.
Agreed.
The mouthfeel right off the rip. The flavors really punch through on this.
Wow.
The fruit notes are coming through big time.
Little heat that also builds, just like the first one.
Not as much as the first one.
But I get a little bit more rye on this one. This has got a lot of...
This drink's like a more modern, more expensive drink price-wise than what it was or is now.
That's a really good way to describe it. This tastes like the upscale, more expensive version of the current one.
Sure.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So really with this one, it shows through. The older one was the dominant better product. I guess you could swing whatever you want with that one.
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead.
Brown sugar. A lot of brown sugar up front.
Really mellows out on the second sip for me, the big second swing.
Yeah, that the heat definitely has died down on the second one for me. It doesn't get as bitey on the tongue.
This one coats your mouth a lot more. It's definitely a thicker drink.
A little savory.
That's funny that this is not Buffalo Trace, but it kind of has that familiarity.
Oh my God,
to it.
it really does, yeah.
When you go through the history of whiskey and stuff and how they've purchased this or bought that, it makes you kind of wonder when they find these recipes or get these recipes, they kind of hone their current offerings. Maybe this is kind of where that kind of sense started. You know what I mean?
I mean, this really. When you said Blanton's on the nose, and now that I'm tasting this and on a second taste of it, it kind of tastes like Blanton's to me.
Not as refined.
Not as refined.
But it's there.
It's got a lot of those notes.
Yeah, for sure. That's good, man.
Really interesting.
This is really good. Like, I would love to have a case of these in my collection, because this is a fine drink. This isn't like, it's cheap, whatever.
It's like we find dram.
We find dram, for sure, yeah.
And if you've had a 1977 or older bottle of ancient age.
Any vintage ancient.
Yeah. Oh no, we'll go with older ones. Leave us a comment below in
I mean, like, as far as older, like, let's say early 90s and lower.
On back. If you have had that or have a bottle of that, leave a comment below. Let us know, and while you're down there, hit the subscribe button. Man,
Good show.
This is really cool. I'm loving exploring these older styles and comparing it to the new ones, because it's really putting in stark contrast of where the whiskey has gone, where the industry has gone with some of these mass manufactured products. And it's an eye-opening and a mind-opening experience for sure. Yeah, and so far the older ones really have been better. Yeah,
they're definitely shining.
Definitely. And speaking of shining, if you want to put us in your ear holes and listen to us, we are on the audio side of the podcast world, the Breaker, Spotify, etc.
Apple, Google.
Check us out on Patreon. We've got a lot of special episodes that you don't see.
He's picking up the old one.
Yeah,
me too.
I'm picking up the old one.
Me too.
But the new one's good too.
It is. It's a great drink.
I think knocking the new one.
This would be a great mixer.
I'll pick up both.
It's a great mixer. It is definitely something I would buy to put on ice in a rocks glass, where you're not being all snobby-wobby like we are with these Glencairns here. Because sometimes, a lot of the times in the summertime, I want a cold drink. And this is a great one to mix with a bunch of ice and have a cold drink. I bet it pops some new flavors out of there that you would appreciate.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Well, that is this Monday's special episode. Be sure to tune in 2 days for our regular whiskey and beer review, and you can check us back out in another 2 weeks for another special episode. All right, guys.
See you then.
See you later.